Today's episode is dedicated. I talk so fast and I do this. I talk so. That's why I mess words up, because I trip over them as I'm trying to say them so
Start
quickly.
with a laugh.
Can't we just get a laugh?
Oh, like, can't we all just get along?
Okay, thank you.
Because that was.
Okay, wait, I'll just. No, we can't. Okay. I don't know that I can do it in a way that's not maniacal. Can't we all just get along?
No.
We cannot get along. I'm never gonna make it through all of this. Can't we all just get along?
Nope.
Zach, keep it professional.
Fine.
Today, we're learning to really appreciate the small things about our spouse, especially in the ways that they're different from us. Do you excel in this area? Or do you need a heart check?
Absolutely not. I'm perfect in every way. This is Love Lessons.
Real life. Real talk. Real relationships. Faith-based tips, tricks, and challenges to improve your marriage and change your life. It's the Love Lessons Podcast with your hosts, Christian counselors and marriage experts, Dr. Zach and Blair Gammon.
Well, that's fresh revelation here on Love Lessons.
Somebody around here's got to be perfect, and it might as well be me.
Shall I remind you that no human is perfect, which is why we need the sacrifice of Jesus Christ.
Is this Jesus Juke Lessons or is this Love Lessons?
Well, somebody's got to keep you in your place. Mm-hmm.
Here's what I know.
Do you know anything?
I do. A good woman knows her place.
People are taking their shoes off and throwing it right now.
In the kitchen is where women belong.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. But men also belong in the kitchen because that's where the snacks are.
Why are women in the kitchen?
Not alone. This is not revelation that aliens have come to our planet.
Where are we going with that? Are we talking about like
Jesus
UFOs?
loves you. You're not alone.
Okay.
No, well, that's true. Jesus does just love you if you're one of his children. He calls you one of his. You're not alone. No, we are not the only people who are willing to be in an inbred relationship.
Are you talking about a few episodes back?
Yes.
The kissing cousins?
So, whoa, that's weird. If you're tuning in for the first time, please go back 2 episodes and listen so you have some context here. A couple episodes ago, which was really kind of just honestly a throwaway episode. It was our we're taking a Christmas break.
It's a Christmas special. It was special, right?
It was something. It was an experience. It was our Christmas experience. Mm-hmm. We talked about, it was one of those episodes where it just kind of went off the rails really quick. And so we started talking about a couple who discovered they were cousins. They were first cousins after they were married, right? And so we said that if we found out at this point in our relationship that we were first cousins, we would stay married because, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. And so when we did that, I really saw it going one of 2 ways. Everybody was going to be like, what is wrong with you people? Or it would go the opposite way and everybody was like, yeah. And that's where everyone is. There was not one single person that commented on either YouTube or Facebook that said, absolutely not, I would leave them. If you're already married, you're married.
Cousin or not.
Right.
Okay.
So one of our friends, Heather, commented and said, Heather Edge, she said, I have invested too much into they've been married for 20 plus years, and she said I've invested too much, and I don't blame her. I mean, you want to get your ROI, and so yeah, she's at this point we're staying together, and everybody else commented and be like, what would be the point? So,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're normal
yeah,
in this.
we're all inbred.
We're all inbred together. No, wait. That's wrong.
Wait, now you're
No,
making it
no.
real weird.
Anyway, let's move on.
Welcome to Love Lessons.
Oh, goodness. Do you have a fun fact for me today?
do.
Is
I
it going to
do.
be fun?
Yes.
Okay.
Turns out a new trend on TikTok tells us that men think about the Roman Empire at least twice a week.
Like the Roman Empire?
That's the only one I know of.
Like history?
Yeah.
Is this true? Do you do this?
Yeah.
You do you really do this?
Yeah. I wouldn't say twice a week, but that's on average. Yeah, I would say probably once every couple weeks.
What is that?
I don't like sit and ponder about it, but it comes to mind. Yeah, it makes total sense. So now, to be fair, at church we have been preaching through the book of Romans for the last year and a half.
Okay.
Almost 2 years. And so, to some degree, I think maybe it's that. But yeah, no, it's like, and so now this is a thing on TikTok. And so it's funny because now people are like, what's your Roman Empire? What's the thing that always occupies your mind? And so, but yeah, for a lot of dudes, this is not scientific. This is all on TikTok. So, keep in mind that that's where we're getting our data from. But at least dudes on TikTok.
How random.
I know. What?
And that all men are doing it, or most men are doing it.
What would you say is the thing that you think about that comes to mind for you? Not like if you say Jesus, I'm going to throw something at you. But like what would be the thing for you that comes to mind most often? Like the same topic that you keep going back to.
I don't have anything.
Is there nothing going on up there?
No, it's like the things I need to do and what I'm hoping to accomplish and studies that I'm doing, but like I can't think of anything.
What about like you read these stupid books that sound that's so dumb to me? These fantasy books. Like, do you not ever think about the storylines and stuff in that?
Yeah, when I'm like reading or thinking about them.
Okay, how often do you think about them?
When I'm reading or listening to the podcast about them.
Is there anything going on there?
That's where I'm struggling with this whole Roman Empire thing, is that my brain is like does tasks. It's just like a machine that does some tasks.
Windows 95 is
It's Windows 95 up there. Plus add some relationships in there, but I don't have like maybe something, I just haven't thought of it, but I can't think.
What do you think about when you're falling asleep at night?
I don't. I go right to sleep, but I don't have to worry about it. I think I'm going to sleep and I go to sleep.
Who are you?
I know.
Do you know how long I have to lay
robot
there?
on the inside, I think.
Do you know how long I have to lay in bed pretending to be asleep for my body to finally fall asleep?
I think I pretend better than you is what it is.
How long on
I'm a
average
better
does it take
actress.
you to fall asleep?
Maybe 3 minutes. Maybe. Literally, I close my eyes and I don't remember anything else. I just go to sleep. If there are those nights when if it takes me longer than like 6 or 7 minutes, then I am like, oh, I can't go to sleep. I'm frustrated by it.
What?
Yeah. I sleep like a little baby.
I literally take sleeping medication that knocks me out. And it still takes me most nights at least 25 minutes to fall asleep.
Even like laying there without your
Yes.
no device,
Yeah.
eyes
Nothing.
closed,
Yes.
it takes you 25 minutes to
At
fall
least.
asleep.
Yes. Now there are exceptions. If I take my medication early enough and then I go like do stuff while I'm getting ready for bed and stuff like that, then I can get to the point where I'm like dog tired. But I have to take the medication like, an hour to an hour and a half before this happens.
Yeah, I think I'm normal.
How is it possible that somebody lays down and falls asleep within 3 minutes?
I have a lot of peace and joy in my life, and I don't have to fight against that when I'm laying down to go to sleep.
You're not trying to fix the Roman Empire.
Nope, not trying to do that. What would you say yours is? Okay, you're like, okay, obviously it's the Roman Empire, but like, what is that thing that's always kind of like a theme where you think back on?
Well, it depends. So I think this is where ADHD comes into play because it depends on whatever I'm hyperfixating on. So it could be something different. Maybe that's the issue, is that you don't have ADHD.
That's it. So what's your
Those of
current
us who are
fixation?
neurodivergent. What did I think about? Last night was one of those nights that I was so tired that I did fall because I took my medicine early. So I don't know. But here's what I do know, and I have found this is a common thing with people who do have ADHD. There's always a soundtrack playing in your head. There's always background music, always. And so I wake up every morning and there's always some random song playing in my head. So this morning it was Chattahoochee by Alan Jackson.
It was going to be a Chattahoochee kind of thing.
You know, it's not that and some people are like, oh, well, that's because you must have been listening. No. I mean, I'm sure it's been on a Pandora playlist at some point in the last 6 months, but no. I went through a little Taylor Swift phase, woke up like 3 days in a row singing a Taylor Swift song. How much better my life would be if I was a man, just so sick of running as fast as I can. Can't get there quicker. I can't say any more of the lyrics, so I'm going to be breaking copyright law on love lessons. But
your brain, it is an interesting place.
It's a scary place in there.
It's interesting.
It is a machine that was designed to run Windows 95 that's like trying to run Windows XP.
Like, a lot of people don't even know what that means. I know that those are like old versions of Windows, right? Operating system. Yeah. Don't remember when and how and where. Like, you're dating yourself.
Windows, yes, I'm not a spring chicken. Windows XP was when the start menu got really pretty. Remember, it was all boring and gray, and then it went to blue and green.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is probably your Roman Empire.
That's probably fair.
Like techie things.
Here's what I've learned. I've been accused recently of being a tech snob.
Oh, yeah?
So our friend Shauna, she was running media at church a few weeks ago. And she was trying to close out of something, and it's a Mac. Most places that do anything creative, they use Macs because they're just more well-suited for that. And she couldn't figure out how to close the program because she uses Windows, as most people do, right, in their normal day-to-day jobs. And so I was like, oh, you just go over here and you click on that and you click quit. And she said, yeah, why is this so complicated? And I told her, I was like, if I had to use a Windows computer right now, I would be like an 85-year-old grandpa trying to figure something out because I've used a Mac for so long. I had to use it for something for work one time, and then it kind of stuck there. And I use an iPhone, and everything's all connected. And she said, so what I'm hearing is that you're a tech snob, and you think that you're better than the rest of us. And I was like, I mean, if the shoe fits, I'm sorry, you peasants are stuck on Windows.
I'm telling you, I've never met a Mac user that wasn't a snob about it. They weren't. Every single one's like, yeah, I use a Mac. Every single one.
Here's what I will say. In my experience, they weren't. They won. They run better.
They do.
My Windows XP processor is still having some trouble here computing. They run better.
If they're so good, then why are you not comparing yourself to a Mac? Because you're not good. Is that the joke? Oh, that's the joke. Yep. Okay. But we started this episode talking about how you were perfect. So clearly we've came a long way since then.
Windows 95 also was cutting edge when it came out in 1995.
So you were cutting edge for the top of the show by this point.
As things go, it just gets a little worse and a little worse. Yeah. So I did see a meme that said it was somebody snarling, and it said iPhone users like, I can't believe that you use an Android. I feel so sorry for you. And then the Android person said, I don't think about you at all. So Shade
was thrown.
I guess I'll just keep using superior equipment.
Yep. You snob. So something that I see is that introverts will marry extroverts, and that this will cause conflict related to how they stay home, how they go out, how they function, and how they do things.
And I think that's really unexpected for a lot of people, right? It kind of sneaks up on them. So, you've heard opposites attract, right? But there really is some truth to that. And so introverts and extroverts, not always, because I would say that we're two extroverts that came together, but a lot of times, more than often than not, extroverts and introverts will be attracted to each other because they see qualities in the other person that they don't possess, right? But I think it's important that we define what an introvert and an extrovert actually is first, because a lot of times we'll say, oh, and so is an introvert, and somebody say, well, I'm both. I'm an introverted extrovert. Okay, cool. I'm glad for you. Congratulations for being unique. But the truth is that for a lot of people, there are some different traits that from being introverted and extroverted that you can share. However, as a general rule, most people are not exactly half and half. They're more introverted than extroverted, right? So an extrovert is simply someone who processes emotions externally. People who tend to process emotions externally enjoy being around other people because they enjoy processing those emotions around other people. Sometimes it's just joy. You're happy to be around other people. Introverts process things internally, right? And so because of that, they tend to be people who maybe more, I don't want to say loners, but they enjoy time to themselves. And so extroverts are recharged by being around people, and introverts are recharged by being by themselves, right?
Or with their small group of family or whatnot, yeah.
So in understanding those definitions, we can quickly see how that can create conflict between people, right? If you are somebody who really enjoys going out to eat and you want to do that 4 nights out of the week, and you're married to someone who wants to leave the house once a month, that can cause some challenges.
Yeah, if you want to do it together, certainly.
Right.
So you have to figure out how to strike a balance to get everyone's needs met. What can we do to make sure that the extrovert has time away to process with other people and that the introvert has time to spend with their small group or at home or by themselves or whatever it is that they need to recharge? How can we strike a balance?
Yeah. Sometimes that striking a balance is just admitting that you don't have to do everything together.
Very true.
Right?
Yeah.
The problem is that the extroverts are typically the ones on social media who post like, we're having a great time and we love this. And then you think, oh, well, that couple does everything together, so we have to do everything together. And that's not necessarily the case. You and I enjoy that because we have many shared interests. We're both pretty extroverted, so we tend to enjoy those same things. But if you are someone who really needs that time alone because it stresses you out to be around that many people, that's okay. Let the other person go out to eat or something. They can go have friends.
Yeah.
There's no law saying that we have to spend every waking moment together as a married couple, especially if you have different needs and there's no good way of meeting those, right?
Now, on the other side of that, just because you are different does not mean that you should do nothing together. Because then you're not adding to, you're not creating emotional intimacy in spending time together. So striking a balance of letting that extrovert go out with their friends, letting that introvert stay home, but how are we going to prioritize time together? Whether that's at home on the couch together, meeting that introvert's needs, or out, at a concert or going out to eat that's meeting that extrovert's needs. Yeah. Where's the balance in all of that?
So one of the things that I have recommended to couples for years, and we did this until we had a baby, and we will do it again, but prioritizing a weekly date night. Right?
Yes.
There are times in life when you can't. We're at a stage right now where a weekly date night is just not feasible to go out and do something. But we still try to get together and hang out and spend time together as it allows.
Yeah, and we say weekly date night, we're talking about leaving the home.
Yeah.
But you can still prioritize a date night at your home if you can't leave your home for other circumstances.
Yeah. There's a pastor here in town who preached on this once about strengthening your marriage, and the line was like, I don't care if you go and sit out on the back porch like with your spouse after the kids go to bed and you'll drink a Coke or something, like just spend that time together.
Yep.
So that's a different subject for a different time. And my point is that prioritizing a weekly date night, and each of you take turns in doing what it is that you enjoy doing. So for example, if you're the extrovert who enjoys going out, like y'all go out to eat. And let's say Tuesday night's your date night, and on Tuesdays you go out to eat. Tuesday night you should be listening to love lessons together, but any other night, go out to eat, and you do that one week, and the next week you stay home and watch a movie together, right? So that way both of you are compromising, like we've talked about recently in episodes, and then also you're both working on getting your needs met, and you're serving the other person, right? And so it's just this, it works really well when both spouses are committed to that.
Now, let's talk about if someone looks one way in public and looks different at home.
We see this, or I see this a lot.
Yeah.
And this is actually something that you and I went through until we really truly learned and understood each other before we went through, or we learned it when we went through marriage counseling. So people are different. And so you might see someone who is very extroverted, and they're very jolly to be around in public, and then they get home and suddenly they're, and that's very much you, right?
It is me.
So when we look at, it's not a bad thing, when we look at
Lord,
how
baby.
people are made, some people in their outer area, if you've ever heard temperament, you've ever been at Revive Counseling Center, you've heard us talk about temperament, you know what we're talking about. But people in their area of what's called inclusion, their outer bubble, their people that they have to interact with outside the home, surface level relationships. You may be very extroverted, but then at home in those deep personal relationships, you might be very introverted. And that can be really shocking for somebody who doesn't understand that dynamic. So when we first got married, I am the same way at home that I am out in public. Not to say that you're fake, but just the way you approach relationships are different.
Yes.
So I am this intense all the time in public and at home. And it's exhausting for people everywhere. You tend to be very like, woo, fun, friends when you're out in public. And then when we come home and you're like, I really need to decompress. I need some time to myself. And I never understood that until like we learned to really appreciate each other's differences. And so many times, the very long point that I'm trying to make here is that so many times when someone is married to someone like this, they say, okay, you're this way here. And then we get home and you don't want to talk to me. And so what that tells me is that you don't like me.
It's a me issue.
Yes. So number one, stop being so selfish because it's not about you. But number two, that was a joke. Number two is that it's important to recognize maybe that's how God made them. You might be married to someone who is like large and in charge out in public. And then at home, they tend to be more meek and more reserved. And that's okay.
That was actually us. So you thought that I didn't like you.
Yeah.
Because
I was convinced that you were faking it when we were in public and that we would get home and you just couldn't stand me. And then in my own codependency and need to be needed and loved, I would just like suffocate you with affection because I'm like, maybe if I just love her harder, she'll love me more.
And that just pushed me the other way because I just needed time alone.
Right. And when we learned that, there are times now that you will come home and you're like, okay, I just like, can I go in here for a while?
Yeah.
Can I like watch something on Netflix or scroll through my phone and not have to think? And I'm like, yeah, come back when you're ready to talk.
Yeah, so there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah.
So understanding that your spouse may look one way and actually be with you differently, that does not mean that they're fake. It's actually part of how God made them.
Yeah.
Or could be part of how God made them, at least, depending on some other factors. And so giving them the benefit of the doubt and trying to dig in those areas where they connect with you.
Yeah. Now, if you're in a situation where the other person really is fake and like y'all are fighting and you're mad at each other and, you know, you go out in public and pretend like everything's fine and then you get home and y'all don't speak to each other, call Revive Counseling Center.
It's like that when you're trying to get the kids out the door to go to church and everybody's hollering and screaming and the dog's barking and it's like, we're going to have a great time worshiping Jesus today.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get in and everyone's like, how are you? Oh, we're wonderful.
Just
We're
happy and
blessed.
Yeah. I love this time of year on Facebook when people will share, it's like a picture of, you know, mom and dad in the front seat and they're furious and they're not speaking to each other. And it's like, we just argued for 20 minutes getting out the door to go make fun holiday memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's not all about you.
You know, another one
What's that?
is opinions.
Yes.
If you are married to someone who does not have a lot of opinions, that does not mean that they don't care.
Yes. Yes.
Going back to how God made us, introverted versus extroverted. For example, I am a person with many, many opinions. There's not much you could ask me my opinion on that I couldn't draw one at some point
Sure.
pretty quickly. You, on the other hand, don't care about a certain amount of things. And so you won't draw an opinion because it's too much energy to do, to put your brain into working on those things. You're doing other things.
The things that don't matter.
Right, the things that
They don't
really
affect our lives.
they don't have any impact on us. And so for the longest time, I thought you just didn't care. You were apathetic. And after learning each other and realizing, oh, it's not that you are not engaged. It's not that you don't care. It's not that you're apathetic. It's that these particular things don't have an impact on your daily life. Therefore, you're not going to let them drain your energy supply.
Yeah.
Whereas I have endless energy when it comes to opinions. And so that didn't compute with me. So if you're like, honey, what do you want for dinner tonight? I don't know. Does that mean that that person doesn't want to put the energy into it? Or does it mean they really don't care? Like, don't draw conclusions just based on your opinion of that person's response related to do they really not care or not?
And that, people love to joke about that. Like, let's argue about where we're going to eat. But that is something, now we do argue about this a lot.
Argue's a strong word.
Okay, that's true. We will get a little silly over it sometimes, though. When we're like, what do you want to go eat? And you're like, I don't know. And then nothing sounds good. That is a different situation. But there are times that I have heard couples that will get into these disagreements, and she'll say, what do you want to go eat? And he'll be like, I really don't care. And she's like, well, I need you to pick something. And he's like, you pick something, I'll go wherever. Like Mexican, Chinese, Italian, McDonald's, you pick it, I'm going to eat it. I'll be happy with that. And that doesn't mean that they're an uncaring person. It's just that they're not invested in that opinion. And I see it a lot with men and women. Men tend to, it's not a blanket statement, but in general terms, I think it's fair to say a lot of times women tend to care more about details where men tend to care more about big picture. And that's not a bad thing. It's just how we were created to be. And it's very much that way. Even when we're having conversations about stuff, a lot of times I don't care about the details.
Yeah.
Like, tell me what I need to do. Let me know the bottom line.
And I want to take the scenic route.
Yeah. And that's great. And there are times that I'm like, yeah, sure, tell me the scenic route. Or there's a reason I need to know these details, but generally, like, I don't care. So.
Yeah, and that does not mean that you don't care about me.
Right.
Or the situation. It's just that you're not expending the energy to draw an opinion on something that doesn't matter in the whole realm of eternity, right? Whereas I have endless energy in those areas. So.
Well, and also think about it like this too, because this is on the flip side of that. I'll hear husbands who'll say, oh, there are things that I care about, and then when I come home and I try to tell you about work, you don't want to hear anything about it. You don't care about what he does for a living. You might, again, that's a general term, but like, you don't care about every detail of his day, right? But that's where his mind is going. And so there are things that you also don't necessarily have an opinion on.
Right.
That's okay, right?
It's okay. What you have to be mindful of is that you have to make sure that you're not invalidating your spouse through your lack of opinion or your lack of care of a situation by not contributing to them and their need and to the overall, if there's a task that needs to be done. If you are apathetic to what you have for dinner and the emotional load or the responsibility is on your spouse to always figure that out, and your spouse is feeling some type of way about that, then you need to talk about it. Then it becomes an issue, right? But if it's truly, something that is minor, that is not contributing to dysfunction and or hurt feelings in the relationship that you really don't care about, then those things, we can let those go.
Right.
They don't have to be major things.
Yeah.
What we're not saying here is that it's okay for your spouse to not have a pulse and to not contribute to the household, whether that be emotionally, financially, parentally, etc.
And so if you are in a situation where your spouse, they do need you to pick up the mental load, like, I do not have the capacity to figure out dinner. Can you please help? And you're someone who doesn't care typically what you eat, that's fine, but you can still pick up the responsibility of deciding what's for dinner.
Just because you don't care does not negate your responsibility to the matter.
Yes. So I think that there's value in learning to express the difference in I don't have an opinion in this versus I don't care about your feelings about the matter.
We've actually stopped saying I don't care in our home. I don't know if you've realized that or not. We more say, I don't have an opinion on that, or it doesn't matter to me one way or another, or we've used different words to convey, because I don't care sounds like really and truly,
I don't care about you.
I don't care about you.
Yes.
So that's helped with understanding that I don't have an opinion, but I'm welcome to dive in with you if needed.
Well, and it, it's, there's value in saying, I don't have an opinion, but I support whatever opinion you do have.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't feel strongly about this, and so if you feel strongly about it, then I'm good to go with whatever. Like I trust your ability to make a decision in the matter, and I trust that you have a reason that you care the way that you do and feel about it the way you do. So by all means, let's roll.
I feel strongly about what type of toilet paper we have at our home.
Yeah.
I don't think that it bothers you one way or the other as long as we have it.
I would use a cinder block if I had to.
Oh, about that.
That's maybe an exaggeration, but
Sandpaper.
Seriously, stuff like that.
Samples are headed your way.
Right. But that's a great example. Like that just does not. There are certain things that don't faze me, And I'm if you feel strongly about it, let's go. I'm great. And I will take on that opinion with you.
You will co-sign that opinion.
Exactly. That's support right there.
Yeah.
That's supporting your spouse.
Next level.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I found online. I've used it before in different contexts, but I think it's worth saying here. So we live in a world that's ran by extroverts. Okay. Mainly because they're the ones that got up and ran their mouth. The introverts were like, fine, do whatever you want to. Now the problem is that the extroverts run the world. And so we often forget that extrovert and introvert is not right versus wrong.
Correct.
People are created differently. Some people are taught, especially in America, that we have to like believe and achieve and succeed. And if you're not running a company by the time you're 35, then you haven't succeeded in life. There are some people who want to live a very quiet life, who are comfortable staying in the same job they've been in for years. There are guys who have worked in a factory for 30 years and they work on the assembly line and they love it because they know the job, they know the expectation, they don't have to interact with anybody, they don't have to make any decisions. And that's great.
It's consistent and stable.
Yes, there is nothing wrong with that. And so it's important not to compare yourself, but it's also important for extroverts to recognize that there's not something wrong with that person because they're not running their mouth like you. So anyway, I said all that to say there's this quote that I love. It says, instead of telling introverts to step out of their comfort zone, maybe extroverts should work on making the zone more comfortable.
I'm a little scared to ask, but I am.
That's fair.
What is your favorite part about being married?
Teaching a savage like you how to be civilized in culture.
Oh, you enjoy that?
It's been nice, the training over the last few years, to see the fruits of my labor. Yeah. No. That you are my best friend.
Yeah.
You're my person. And that I especially love the fact that I know that you're always in my corner when I'm wrong. And what are you laughing at?
I just realized what my answer is.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I'm scared too. And so I love that you're in my corner even when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And there will be times where I'm like, I know that I'm in the wrong here, but I just need to complain and I need you to co-sign. And you're like, go off, King.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think I've ever said those words to you, but if that's what you've gotten from that, if that's what I've conveyed to you, then I've done a good job.
If you wanted to say that, that'd be okay.
Go off, King.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would that imply you're the king? Is that what that means?
Yeah. I mean, like all the girls get called queen. Why can't the men be called king?
Okay. Sure.
Here's a little encouragement for you ladies who listen. Pay your husband a random compliment and tell him how amazing he is, especially if he doesn't get those very often. Watch him turn into a little girl. He might act all big and tough at first, but he'll turn into a little girl.
Or ignore it, but inside, it's making an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about being married?
So I would agree with you. It's that you're my person. It's that you're always there. You're actually a very helpful person too to have. So it was just reminding me when I was a kid, I would talk to doors. They'll go with me here. Automatic doors, right? Though they're very normal today when you're going into businesses. But back in the 90s, they had them, but it wasn't that they were everywhere. And in my little brain, there was like, not a person in these automatic doors doing it, but like a person maybe watching a camera that was opening and closing it, or like the doors were sentient a little bit maybe. Like I just imagine that these, like when a door would open for me, I would thank the door. I would say, thank you. Thank you. Every time. I had great manners as a child, and that carried over to things.
To inanimate objects.
To inanimate objects. And so you are like those doors. You're always helpful. You're always there for me.
Half of the
You
Love
were my
Lessons
person.
audience has left the room. They have walked out the door.
I was a young little child, okay? I don't think doors now.
She did it when she was 27.
I said, thank you. Thank you. You just remind me of those doors. You're always helpful. You're always there for me.
It's very kind. That was a very weird way to get there.
Coming in clutch. That was my brain. I'm sorry.
King is coming in clutch.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
So why is it that you made fun of me for talking about angry beavers the other day, but you talked to doors?
Talked. Past tense. As a child, my brain wasn't fully developed. The beaver thing came from a fully developed brain. Me talking to doors didn't.
I'm a pastor. I've got to make analogies somehow.
Okay. Well, go off, King.
We're going to change the name of this podcast. Go off, King.
King's Lessons.
Oh, man. That's a good episode title. So we asked this to some of our Love Lessons folks on Facebook.
Yeah.
We asked some people, what is your favorite thing about being married? We got some responses.
Yeah. So Scott said companionship, which he's right. Go off, King there. Yeah. Evan said all is the right answer.
Yes.
All things are my favorite about being married.
Go off, King.
Yeah, he's a smart man. He's been doing this for a minute.
He and Chelsea have been married for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not 10 years.
No, I think it's...
Has it been 10 years?
I think so.
What year is this? Yeah, almost, if not
You
almost.
can't do math, so we might as well stop.
It's not
over
math
it.
lessons. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brittany said loving one another even on the days that are hard, knowing that he's got my back and I've got his and that we're a team.
Yeah.
She also added a second one.
Okay.
Having somebody to help me make the bed. Those four corners are rough when you're doing it alone.
Amen, sister.
Yeah, that's true.
Go off, Queen.
That's a good one. And then Bambi said the support that he gives me, no matter what I'm going through or the busy life that we have, he is always there supporting me as I am with him.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Here are a few others, too, that I think are really good. So a lot of people have said, Kara said he's my best friend, my BFF. Danny said she's my best friend. Those are really good. I really like what Karen said. She said, having a partner for 30 years who has shared all of my most significant experiences is such an amazing gift. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
No one else would get all of our jokes and references, so we got to stick together forever until the good Lord calls us home. That is so cool to have that person who's seen you in all those stages of life. And then I really love what our friend Brandy said about her husband, Charlie. She said, marriage has helped shape me into being more like Christ than anything else in my life. My husband has loved me like Jesus when I didn't deserve his love. He challenges me to be better, encourages me to give my all in anything that I do, causes me to love harder, laugh longer, and forgive quicker. I learn because he leads by example, and I thank the Lord daily for this man.
That's profound.
So, Brandy, if you're looking for a new career choice, writing Valentine's Day cards would be...
Hallmark's going to call you, girlfriend.
Yeah. But, I mean, that is... She summed up perfectly, I think, what a marriage is supposed to be like, right? Right? Like pointing your spouse back to Christ is... and that's something that I fall short of regularly. You know, I think it's a good question for all of us. How am I representing Christ in my marriage? And how can I point my spouse back to Christ?
Yeah.
So it's good stuff.
And if you are listening and you're hearing all of these positive things and you are struggling to come up with your favorite thing about being married, dig into that. If you can't come up with a good answer, or some of these things that you're hearing are not striking with you, or you're going, I don't get that, then I would say do some reflection on your relationship. And is it where you want it to be? What areas do you want it to grow? What goals can you create for your relationship?
Yeah.
And how can you talk to your spouse about those?
Yeah. So the point of all of this is really to encourage us to enjoy the simple things in marriage.
Yeah.
So the theme that we've kind of been following these last few episodes of Love Lessons is a conflict in marriage and conflict resolution, and how conflict plays such a role in our everyday life. And so many times, this is a great example of how we can work on something on our marriage that is not necessarily we're trying to fix something that's broken. It's just improving our relationship, right? How do I learn to enjoy the simple things? What can I do to really appreciate my spouse? How can I show them that love and appreciation and whatnot? And we so often think, many people have this mindset of when I get to this next stage or when I get here or whatnot, then, life's going to look perfect. But what can you appreciate about the right now, specifically about your spouse?
Right.
So thank you guys for those of you who shared. Continue sharing, because we love seeing stuff like that. And, it's easy to talk about the bad, but that's some of the good.
Yeah.
Right?
We need to focus on that too.
Yeah. We introduced something a couple weeks ago that I didn't know was going to take off like it did. But people love it. And so backed by popular demand, it's making a second appearance here in this episode. I've even given the segment a title.
Okay.
Toxic Traits.
Oh, no.
We aired some of each other's dirty laundry.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. Some of our complaints. These were things that don't matter, but we got a big laugh out of them. And the people watching and listening got an even bigger laugh.
Well, I think it's because it's relatable.
Yes. And we're dramatic.
One of us is. The other is even-headed, normal, reasonable at all times. And then, yeah.
This is not lie lessons. So we're here to tell you...
Go off, King.
Thank you. We're here to tell you all of the bad things that our better half does.
No, guys, these are minor things, right? These are funny things.
Fresh from the complaint department.
Fresh from... This is true. But we do this in good faith and in jest. We're not picking on things that are sore subjects in our relationship.
No. These are things that we laugh about because they're ridiculous.
Yes. That does not mean that I don't feel rage, but that's a normal emotion for me.
That is your baseline.
I thought it was angry.
What do you think rage means?
Rage is elevated anger.
Okay, so anger is your baseline.
Okay.
Rage is one more.
I don't think anger is my baseline. Don't make me clack on a keyboard.
That one is something that you can tell Blair's level of irritation by how loudly she's typing.
I'm a clacker.
You're a clacker.
Mm-hmm. Ask people who have worked with me.
Mm-hmm. I walked into the Revive office one day. Our office is inside a building in an office complex. We have a suite in the building. And I was coming up to the front door of the suite. And I was in the building. I was coming to the front door of the suite. And I step inside of that. And then there's another door between the waiting room and all of the counseling offices. There's music playing in the waiting room. And over that, I could hear you clacking down the hallway. You were so intensely.
I was clacking.
This was not even one of the toxic traits I was going to talk about, but it is something.
Do you think it's a toxic trait?
No, you're not very hard to read. Now, your resting face can be if somebody doesn't know.
Yeah.
But if you're feeling an emotion, it's typically known. I'm the same way. It's not hard to figure out.
It's an extrovert thing.
I know. Okay. Do you want to hear a complaint
From the complaints department.
from the complaints department?
How about it? Go off, King.
Why is it when we go somewhere and I GPS, which you complain about that I don't do, but then when I do put something in the GPS, you seem to think that you know better than Siri? What wisdom has been imputed to you that when Apple Maps or Google Maps or Waze or any of those things, when it knows the best way to get there in the quickest amount of time based on traffic, how is it that you seem to think you know better? Especially when it's a place that you've never been to or you have no experience in.
See,
Before you even finish, let me give some examples. A few weeks ago, we went to Indianapolis, Indiana for the weekend. Okay? Correct. That's right.
I was there.
All right. We live 3 to 3.5 hours away. There are about 4 ways that you can get there from where we live. And so I punched it into the Jeep. What am I, 85 years old? I typed it. I can punch it in. I input the address of our hotel. And it gave me the direction to go. And you were like, no, we don't need to go that way. And you've been to Indianapolis once in your life? Twice? Once? And the last time you were there, we were there together. And that has been almost 15 years ago. So tell me how it is that all of these satellites, it is called a global positioning system after all of these satellites know where we are. Apple knows all the traffic data because it can read our location. It knows the roads that are closed and what's not working. How is it that Blair knows the direction that we need to go and she knows that it's wrong if you don't even know how to get there because we have to use the GPS in the first place? Please enlighten us. Go off, Queen.
Okay, so in that particular example, I have been...
It's piss poor justification all over it.
I've been up in that area, and I know the way up there.
Okay.
I've driven it, and so the way that it was trying to take us did not feel like the way that I've been, is number one. But two, I do that because you, my dear, my sweet, sweet summer child, have this habit of punching it in the GPS feeling like you know which way you want to take, but then not paying attention to where the GPS is taking us, and then getting frustrated when it's taking us a different route than what you thought because you're not paying any attention.
Okay, it's not that I'm paying and not paying attention.
It's that you trust. You have full blind trust. GPSs have led people into oceans before.
Once, okay? One time. I forgot to take out the trash one time. No, it's because the GPS will be like, turn onto this road. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know what direction you want me to turn on this road because the way that you think that I'm pointing is not necessarily the way that I'm going. Or it uses these obnoxious words like go north. And I'm like,
west.
If I knew what north meant, I wouldn't need the GPS. Right?
That's valid.
I am so thankful that I grew up in a generation that has GPSs because if somebody handed me an atlas and said, get here or you die, you better start planning my funeral.
Start digging that grave.
I wouldn't know where to go to dig it. There's a GPS to get there. No, it is. So what I'm hearing you say is that before we even pull out of the parking lot and you're arguing with the direction the GPS is going, you're doing it in anticipation of me screwing something up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely it is.
That is the dumbest thing
If
I've
I go
ever
on
heard.
trips with friends and they put it in, I have full faith that we're going to get there. I just know that we'll put it in the GPS and you're like, where's it taking us? Oh, I didn't want to go this way. And so I am preempting all of that by trying to determine what the best way is to go.
So what you're saying is it's easier to be kinder to your friends than it is your spouse. This is a whole other love lesson that we could talk about.
I feel like I'm kind to you just
Why
fine.
do you treat other people better than me?
I want to know why you won't let me be helpful.
Because I can 90% of the time when you have argued with a GPS, you have in fact been wrong.
I don't think the statistics
I don't
support
care
that.
what you think.
I'm not feeling that
feelings
statistic
are not
is
facts.
correct. Okay, all right.
No. We're still here. You have to admit defeat.
Well, then we're going to be here a while.
Why is it that you have to correct? Why is it?
It's because I have control problems, Zach. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Yes, but why is it that you don't have control problems when other people are doing it? Is it because you have grace for them if they screw it up, but you don't have grace for me?
No, it's because I already know you so well to know that you aren't going to be sure which way you wanted to take. If there's one way only to get there, then we're good. There's multiple ways.
Yeah, but at some point, like 5 minutes in, I'm like, I guess this is the way we're going. Like, it just is what it is at that point.
There have been times that we have literally turned around and went a different route that you wanted to go and have lost time on it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you automatically have to assume I'm going to screw it up. Give me the time to screw it up before you get mad.
I'm not automatically assuming. I'm saying let's look at the map, the routes, and go, that's how I'm wanting to do it. That's why I say, hey, I think this route's the best route. This is a you problem. It's not a me problem.
But every time, 90% of the times that you have argued with me, you have been wrong. And you have gotten us so discombobulated. We have planned on taking trips, like weekend trips where it's just the two of us to have a great time, and we've gotten into a fight before we even leave town because we argue about the GPS.
I'm gonna need you to point that out to me later specifically because I'm not recalling that.
Nashville, Indiana. We go to Indiana a lot more than I realized, I guess. Nashville, Indiana. We went for a weekend trip.
I said it.
6 months ago.
Yeah.
And we got into a fight because you wanted to go one way and the GPS was saying based on traffic, we go another way. And finally, if you recall, I said, fine, Blair, we'll just do whatever you want. Let's just go this way. Is that going to make you happy? And then you were like, why are you mad at me? And I'm like, because you're being a psychopath about the GPS.
But will you recall that it took us home the way that it was trying to take us there and you hated it and you were like, oh, this is why we should have went the other way.
No, that's not true.
That
is not how it went.
Okay.
No.
We're going to have to agree to disagree on this. I think this is a shared issue and you're thinking this is a Blair toxic trait. You're not looking at how you're adding to the toxicity of the situation.
Here's the deal. All of these things are shared issues.
Yeah, it's true.
All of these problems are our own.
Well, I don't know. This next one here.
Well.
It's a deep subject. So, Zach.
So, Blair.
Tell me why you will buy things and with the intention of knowing that you might need to return it because it's not what you want or you're getting multiples to try to figure out which one you like better or whatever it is, clothing specifically.
The worst.
And then you will not return it. You are the world's worst about buying something and saying, I'll just return it if I don't like it, or with the intention of returning some and then not doing it. Now, let me say, before you say this, yes, Blair has done this before.
Yes.
But it is not
But
my
only
normal.
like twice in the relationship.
It is not my normal.
I've done it 4 times this week.
You literally got 3 red sweaters last night. He's wearing one of them today, by the way. He liked it so much he decided to keep it. You got 3 red sweaters in the mail last night, and you sheepishly looked at me and said, I'm going to return them if I don't like them. And they made their way to our bedroom, and I was like, don't take them back there or they'll never see the light of day again. You're like, no, I'm just trying to declutter them so they're not in the house, which
I'm thinking about actually
is
keeping the other one too.
I'm going to buy all of them and I'm going to return them, and then I'm never going to return them. And so then I'm going to have to either have all these clothes that I really didn't need, or I'm going to have these clothes that don't fit me that I'm going to have to give away or sell to Plato's Closet because I didn't actually, and I'm never going to go through that effort if I'm not going to return something. And then Blair has to get rid of it.
Okay, so here's what
Blair has to take it to the little droppy drop because Zach doesn't take it to the droppy drop. Speak for yourself, sir.
Haven, our almost 13-year-old, has a note in her phone
Of the drop.
of all of the locations of like the clothes donation drop-offs.
She does.
Because we are so bad at this. I am the leader.
Yeah.
I admit I make up 85% of the we. Also, though, I would also like to point out
Is for justification.
I'm not justifying anything here. I'm still at the stage of my life where I am optimistic that I'll be able to fit into some of my skinny clothes. And so what the problem is that I've gone 3 sizes up, and I still have some of those skinny clothes up in the attic that are probably going to be donated. I just don't want to admit it yet. So that's another conversation for another time. That's depressing. Anyway.
If Amazon shows up, I know 50% of it's going to need to go back.
And 20% of it might.
And maybe 20%.
So here's what
And usually with Blair, at the last minute going, take it back. The ice maker. Is that one of those nugget ice makers? We decided to return it. I decided I wanted him to return it. And he kept saying, I'm going to. I have 30 days, I'm going to. And it was finally, I kept reminding him, last day, he thought he had a couple more days, but when he looked at it, it was literally, okay, you do it today or you can't return it. And it was like 30 minutes before it closed. He had a bunch of things on his to-do list. He had to drop it so he could take it back. You were so frustrated by this situation of your own creation.
This is all true.
And somehow you were upset with me.
Here's what I have learned. Okay.
Enlighten us, Dr. Zach, please.
It's not because I'm smart. It's actually, I learned it from another mental health provider. When you have ADHD.
Likely excuse.
I knew you were going to say that, but it's true. There is all kinds of dopamine in buying something, and there is absolutely 0 dopamine in returning it.
And you see how this is a problem, right?
Oh, yes, but I can't stop.
We're not going to use our mental issues as an excuse for our bad behavior. We're going to do something about it.
I was listening to something the other day, and somebody was like, it's so frustrating to me because somebody was like, why can't you just do it? And I have ADHD, and I physically can't. I just can't, okay? I just can't. I can't do it.
If I knew that we were going to be blaming things on medical conditions, then I was going to have some sort of neurological condition that caused me to argue with GPSs. If I knew that's where we were going with our toxic traits today.
What I have learned is that DoorDash will actually pick up packages for you and take them like Amazon returns. And so it might be worth the $2 to spend on DoorDash to get them to come pick it up for me. I feel like I could get it to the front step. That's something I could probably do.
$2 versus losing how much ever because you don't return it.
Yeah, that feels like a win for me.
It's better than it was, but it's not the most ideal. I'll give you that.
That's fair. Here's what I do know. If I do take anything back and return it, I have to take it in my own vehicle because it'll never make it in yours.
What are you talking about?
Why is it that somebody who can keep such an immaculately clean house has a car that is a mess? Don't try to justify it.
No, I don't think that you know what mess looks like. I don't. Listen, when I was growing up.
See, here we go. I know that you're full of crap because you're stopping your sentence because you realized it wasn't going to work, so you had to start over.
No, I'm giving you an explanation. I'm giving you an example.
An explanation of why you're so messy so you admit it.
When I was growing up, We had a neighbor, and her name was Miss Pat.
Back in my day.
And Miss Pat
Here we go.
was very, very messy lady in her house and in her car. And she had the kind of car that you open the door and stuff fell out.
Yeah, so do you.
No, I do not.
Yes, you do. Absolutely, you do.
I don't think that you open my car doors enough if you think that that's true. Miss Pat, you couldn't even sit in her front seat because there was so much trash in the seat, but on the floor that you couldn't even get into the car. That is not my car. I have a trash can that might be a little overflowing.
A little?
But it's
I almost said a bad
fairly
word.
cleaned up.
I almost said BS out loud.
That is your own issue. That is
You're
your
making me cuss.
issue. No, I'm not making you do anything. You are responsible for your own actions and your own emotions.
You're responsible for keeping your vehicle clean too.
And I
you
feel
don't.
like it's adequate.
It's not
I feel
adequate.
like I don't think it's great, but it's
if
adequate.
you were getting a grade, it would be an F.
It would be like a C, okay? It's not great, but it's not the
A
worst.
D plus at best.
I think that you need to take pictures of my car and we need
best.
to have people vote on this.
Listen.
I think you're biased.
Okay,
I think you're biased.
let me ask you something.
I strongly disagree with you.
When you get ready to go somewhere on a trip and somebody's going to be riding in your car, why is it so important that your car gets cleaned out then?
Because I do that on any trip. I've always done that.
Okay.
The same reason that you clean your clean house before somebody comes over, and then you say, "I'm sorry, it's such a mess," and we all know it ain't a mess. It looked good.
Yeah, but the difference is your car was a mess.
No.
You also
do the
don't
same
take your
thing
vehicle.
before we go.
That's true.
You clean it and you
That's true.
car wash it, and it looks fine already.
The difference is it looked fine already. That's the difference. Now, I say all this as someone who does have some stuff piling up
Your
in the truck
logic
right now.
is
Because I've been doing
valid.
some Christmas shopping, but that's not the point. Here's the deal. You went on a girls' trip a few months ago. Mm-hmm. And you said, I really need to go out there and clean my car. Which it translates to, Zach, you need to go clean out the car because Blair rarely cleans it out.
I just cleaned it out 2 weeks ago.
When's the last time you took it to the car wash?
I think that we need to define what clean your car means. I think
So
that's
you
what
know
we need to
how
do.
when you're like, when you say you're going to do the dishes, that means you clean the counter too? Same thing. All right. So
You clean the whole kitchen. You don't just do the dishes.
exactly. You said, I need to go clean out my car, which meant Zach's going to go do it. And so Zach did. And I don't know if you have like bought stock in those protein shakes or not. But you do have a trash can, which is cute. But I open the car door. The trash is behind the passenger seat, like under Judah's seat. So it's like out of sight, out of mind on the floor. And I open the door and two of them fall out. Two of the empty, they're not really bottles. What are they?
The little cardboard bottles.
Yeah. They so hot. And I was like, well, dang. And then I look and it's like overflowing. I don't know if like you've been in a chugging competition of protein shakes or what, but they're everywhere. There's so many in there. There's not room for trash anywhere else. So then it ends up in your floor. And then crap just starts piling up. And then you've gotten in the car and your messy feet have gotten grass and trash everywhere. And then I will go and buy the really nice floor mats for your car, and you will get in there and you'll have them like all shoved up. One time I almost literally got into an accident driving your vehicle because you took the mat and it was so shoved up in there that it was blocking the brake pedal from going all the way down. And I said something to you, and you're like, oh yeah, tell me that your vehicle's not a mess. Here's what I know. I drove this vehicle before you did. I had it for like, 3 years before you took it over? We traded, I got a different vehicle, you took that vehicle. When I drove that vehicle, it was almost always clean. I many times will refuse to get in the vehicle with you.
We just have different priorities.
It is like riding in a pigsty.
It is not that bad. A pigsty is an F, and it's not an F. A pigsty is like...
There have been days it's been an F.
We're going to have to agree to disagree because I think that your view of
It's so
pigsty-
funny how when I bring something up that you don't like, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
Well, we can just stay here and try and go in circular motions, but we might as well agree to disagree so we can move on.
We can get into one of
What
those
would you
cycles.
tell a couple about this? Don't sweat the small stuff.
This is not a small
Compromise.
thing. This is going to end my life if you don't clean the vehicle.
You're being quite dramatic.
But I really won't ride in your vehicle.
This is true. I'm like, come on, honey, just get in mine. We'll run over it. We were going to run across the street earlier. Come on, honey, let's go over here and get this. No, let's take my truck. We walked further to get into your truck
Absolutely, we
because
did.
you refused to get in mine.
Yeah.
That's fairly clean right now. It's not been vacuumed or wiped down, but as far as trash goes, as far as clutter, there's very little in there.
This is like the equivalent of saying, they smoke crack with their kids and they, beat people up twice a week, but they're a really good person.
Here's what we can end with.
Oh, I'm sure we can.
If it's that messy,
Then why don't you go clean it yourself?
then why?
Good.
No,
Great. Great.
Stop interrupting
Absolutely.
me. I have the floor.
This is
I
my.
have the floor.
This is going to be my answer to everything when you don't like how I clean something at the house. If you don't like it, go clean it yourself.
That wasn't where I was
It's too
going.
late because that's where I went.
You jumped and you made an assumption.
You're darn right I did. These are great
So,
communication skills for people to learn.
You didn't stretch before you made that jump. If my car is so horrible, it's disgusting, you won't even ride in it, right? Then why do you let your son? Why do you let your daughters? If it is that bad, why do you let your children ride in this vehicle that you won't get in?
So what
If
you're
it's
saying?
CPS worthy, then why are you
I
letting your
never
children
said it
in
was
it?
CPS worthy.
It's an F.
I said that you're a
It's an
slob.
F.
Yes. To my standards of clean. There are times that you run around acting like our house is an F. When at best, the floor needs to be swept and some toys need to be picked up.
And probably your beard hair needs to be cleaned out of the sink.
Oh, we want to talk about hair? Do you want to talk about the large clump of hair that I pulled out of the shower drain this morning? Or the 3 balls that I threw away that you just stuck to the wall in the
They're
shower?
not stuck to the wall. They're
That's
in a
where they
little
started.
tiny pie. And I fixed it so that they wouldn't go down the drain.
Fixed it?
Yes, I did.
Does not mean leaving it in the shower, Blair.
As you can see, guys, we have a lot of toxic traits.
We have a lot of things wrong with us. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Just get your last one out. We've done 2 and 2. Actually, we've done 3 and 3 now. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Tell us how Zach sucks.
We're going to make this one quick. You go to bed late
Yeah.
regularly.
Yeah.
Most of the time, reasons of your own choosing.
Yeah.
And then but you know what time you have to wake up every morning
Yeah.
to do life, to be a responsible adult.
Yeah.
And you wake up early and you complain because you got very little sleep. And then you're tired all day long and sometimes grouchy. And that is everyone else's problem, and or everyone else has to deal with you being grouchy and complaining that you're tired. When if you had just been a responsible adult and went to bed at a normal time, we wouldn't have to deal with this. You're always like, why are you not tired? Because I got 8 hours of sleep last night because I was responsible. Yet you stay up all hours of the night and then complain when you got to wake up like it's everybody else's fault.
I have no rebuttal to this.
Zach's toxic trait.
I sit here in shame.
You were the worst.
I agree. Now, I will say, there was one night last week that I was up until 2 o'clock in the morning. Last Monday night, trying to get that freaking episode, 2 Mondays ago, trying to get that freaking episode of Love Lessons to upload. Because
That's
the computer would not work. And it's still my fault. Ultimately, it was my fault because I waited till the last minute. Well, we had a busy weekend too, so some of it was my fault. I waited till the last minute. Literally Monday night, I'm trying to edit the thing that goes live on Tuesday mornings. And it was not working. And it was almost 2 a.m. before I went to bed. And that really sucked. Every other time this week, it has been my fault. I hang my head in shame. And I resolve the fact that it's not my strong suit. If only you could be so humble to admit your failures with GPSs in cars.
Today's love note is a simple reminder to appreciate the unique things about your spouse. People often joke that the little things that they thought were cute when they first got together are now the things that drive them crazy. But it doesn't have to be that way. Remind yourself to not take things so seriously. Some fights just aren't worth the separation that they cause in your relationship.
Thanks for that love note. Will you go clean your car out now?
It's not that bad.
Not that bad sounds like yet another justification.
Okay, it could use some work. But I'm going to need you to meet me in the middle on that one.
This podcast could use some work. We'll see you guys next time if Blair's little trash can on wheels makes it here.
Butthead.
We'll see you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Love Lessons Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.